Welcome to the Crash the Pond podcast. Welcome back, everybody. It has been an eventful last week of Ducks hockey, December 13th edition of the pod here. Jake, how are you feeling after, let's just get it out of the way right off the top. The moment, the goal, the Zegras to Milano play that broke the internet. This is our first official podcast since
Yeah.
the goal happened.
Yeah. I mean, it was insane. As Gabe Greenlee says, it's a goal that will go down, or he didn't say this, but he brought up the word. It goes in the annals of time for the best goal in Ducks history.
Good.
No, but in general, I mentioned this on the Patreon episode, but I think it's worth reiterating here. I was left speechless, I think, after the goal, because I think there's not really a good way to necessarily describe the play and what happened in the sense of actually fully doing justice to what occurred on the ice. And so I think kind of transitioning from that to almost trying to understand that this was a play that was completed by a guy on the Ducks. And I mean, everyone out there should know already, but the Zegras Milano play was Zegras picks it up in the Michigan, tosses it over the net in insane fashion, and Milano bats it in perfectly. So the fact that type of play, that type of creativity happened in a Duck sweater, it's just something that I didn't necessarily know what to do with, if that makes any sense. It really, like I'm even saying again, it left me speechless. And you and I were talking about this, and maybe in Discord I put it in there also, but it was really like a couple hours later when it hit me. And while, yes, this isn't a goal that won a Stanley Cup, it's nothing from that perspective. But there are moments where you kind of sit back and you think about it and you realize that you just watch or witness history. And that's how that goal felt in some ways. You just witnessed this guy that essentially has started to blossom. He's 20 years old. He's starting to come into his own in his rookie year, starting to really make his impact on the game. And it's not only making an impact in the game in terms of just scoring goals, but he's doing it in a way that's going to inspire a next generation. It's funny. Do you remember the conversation we had on the last episode?
Which one?
So on last Monday night, so after the Capitals game, the day before, the night before the Sabres game, we had a discussion about Trevor Zegras and the fact that he had an insane game against the Capitals. They played him a bunch of ice time and a lot of these different things. And we were talking about just how wonderful it is to have a guy like that on the Ducks and how that type of player is going to inspire the next generation, and how the creativity that he has, the ability he has to just make these plays is something that's so uncanny. And it's something that's so, I can't even think about the right word, but it's just going to catch on. And there's going to be so many kids that want to play hockey because of him. And it's funny that play happens the day after we have that conversation.
Yeah, right on cue.
Yeah, and it's just funny how it just so succinctly puts kind of on screen what we were talking about there, and the fact that Michael B. Jordan put it on his Instagram. The fact that it was viewed, over 50 million times is what I think the Ducks PR was saying. The fact that it led the Scott Van Pelt show. Trevor Zegras was on ABC7. He led coverage on The Point for ESPN. The Ducks were the talk of the town because of not because of anything bad, because of a highly skilled play from a highly skilled kid that is going to reinvent what Ducks hockey means. And I think it was a special moment that will go down in the history of this franchise.
Yeah, certainly. And I remember watching the play happen and thinking, he gets behind the net, he goes to pick up the puck, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to try the Michigan, right? Because we've seen him do that. Didn't he try it in his first NHL game, or one of his first,
something like that?
One of his first 3 NHL games, he tried the Michigan. So he's tried that before, and I was thinking, okay, this, here we go again. This should be interesting. And then instead of going for the wraparound, which you do with the Michigan, he just kind of holds it up, and I'm thinking, oh, this is different. What's about to happen? And then I see him toss it, and I'm thinking, oh, this is what's happening. And then Milano bats it out of the air into the net. And I just stared at my screen blankly for about 15 seconds. I just couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. The fact that A, he tried it, that B, they pulled it off from start to finish with both the toss, the bat out of the air, just everything about that, the celebration after, the fact that they had to review it to make sure it wasn't a high stick,
His
and
laugh on the bench.
the ensuing giggles on the bench between Milano and Zegras, like two schoolboys who just got away with something in class,
Yeah.
right? Like got away
Yeah.
with a prank from the back of class. Hit the teacher with a spitball or something. Like it was just the craziest 5 to 10 minute span of NHL hockey I've seen in a long, long time. And yeah, when I put it out there on Twitter that this is one of the most memorable goals in Ducks history, not in the same vein as the other goals that will come to mind, big playoff moments, but just the fact that it was such a unique and devastating moment for the opposition, for the Buffalo Sabres. So yeah, really cool moment.
I can't remember the last time a regular season goal would stick out this much to me.
No,
I think all the other goals that are mentioned are playoff goals, right? I don't know if there is another regular season goal that is a lot in the same vein as this one that will always be remembered.
Oh no. But this isn't like, again, it's kind of what we talked about on the last podcast. It's that when you're talking about the Zegras, Milano, and Raquel line, you're not even just talking about comparing them to their own team anymore. Like they're on a league wide scale. They are very, very good.
They are excellent. And here's one thing that a point that I think you made on the Patreon episode, and it's one that's worth repeating for everyone, because I've seen a lot of people try to say this on Twitter, and I think there's a big distinction to be made. A lot of people will say that what's so special about that play, not that many people can actually, or a bunch of people can actually pick up the puck and complete that play. It's not that difficult to do. And I don't think that's a completely incorrect point, because we've seen players now try it, kids now try it, and I actually do think that's what makes this special, is it's not necessarily such a high skilled play that it's not repeatable. I think it's cool that kids can actually go and do this. But what makes that such a high skilled play and what makes it so special isn't necessarily the ability to do it, but the ability to recognize that that is the best option that he has, and improvise on the fly to essentially make a play that no one besides, I guess, Pavel Datsyuk has really tried. And so to see all of the options on the ice in front of him and be able to make a decision, nah, screw it, I'm going to go my own route that no one has gone before in a way that has worked. And that's what makes that play truly special, is that the recognition and the IQ of, this is my best way to create a goal for my team. And that's, I think, also, if we want to get into a brief little bit on the conversation against this goal, at the end of the day, what did this play do from Zegras? It got the puck to the front of the net in a dangerous area, onto the stick of his teammate. This is no different than, as you've mentioned, Wayne Gretzky being behind the net with the puck on his stick in his quote-unquote office, trying to dish it to a teammate. This is just getting the puck to that player in a non-traditional way that was unexpected, and it resulted in a goal. And so it's such a smart play and such a unique play, and there's so many things about it. And the other thing that's so fascinating about it is, now that he's scored this goal, this opens up the opportunity to score a regular Michigan goal, because as the PDO cast talked about this when they were discussing Zegras, actually it was recorded, I think, before this goal, but Jack Hahn brought up depth of skill and how having a different way to be able to create a chance from a different situation gives you essentially a better chance of becoming a star. And with Trevor Zegras, now when he's behind the net, teams don't know how to defend him, because he can do whatever he wants. If he goes to pick up the puck, that doesn't necessarily mean he's wrapping it around for a lacrosse goal, because if you watch that goal again, Colin Miller's sitting on the back post, and he's basically there to stop Zegras from pulling it around with a Michigan type goal. And so now that player might need to commit differently, and maybe it opens up Zegras to fake that and go for something else. We've seen Zegras try fake behind the legs passes to open up passing lanes. Everything that he does has a reason behind it. And I think that's what's kind of fascinating with all of this, is it's not just doing it to showboat, it's doing it with a reason also, to try to create a chance and open up shooting lanes. And that's just how skilled he is that these are plays that are normal enough to him that he can utilize them to essentially create chances.
Right, exactly. I mean, that was the whole thing up until that goal, right? When Zegras would try something really off the wall, really different during a game, like let's say even with the LA game, where he tries to go between the legs and fakes out Doughty on the 2-on-1. You get the groans online of people saying, "Oh, just make the simple play there, just shoot it or what have you." And this is why you don't try to stifle the skill, because the more he tries stuff, the more that he's trying to execute plays, the more you're building up to him actually pulling something off. And it's not just that it was a highlight reel, it was also a goal for his team.
Yeah.
Right? Like in a win. So it's one of those things where, like I think I had mentioned earlier in the season, for Zegras, these are just like you were explaining just now a little bit. This is to him just the best play in that moment. I think he does have the flair for the dramatic. I think he is a showman at heart, but I also think that because he trains in a certain way, because he sees the game a certain way, that's just the best play to him in that moment. And that's not an on and off switch. Like this isn't the kind of player that you can tell to dumb it down, because he sees the game. This is how he sees the game.
Mm-hmm.
And no one is really going to be able to change that. Now, to Dallas Eakins' credit, I do think that there are coaches, as we found out, in the days after, there are coaches who would literally tell their players to not do that, or who would tell them to reconsider. And to Dallas Eakins' credit, I mean, you and I, when we got to talk to him at development camp, he said like he encourages Zegras to try stuff. Like this is part of their rapport between player and coach. And I think that what we saw against Buffalo was really just kind of the payoff from letting him do what he wants to do. And the thing is, that's only going to continue. And we're only going to get more highlights from Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Dallas Eakins actually had an interview with the DFO podcast, and there was something else, I can't remember exactly what it was, that I wanted to bring up from that. But one thing that Dallas Eakins brought up is, and this is something I try to mention a bunch, this is an entertainment industry at the end of the day. And what better thing can you do than provide entertainment with these types of plays? And so why would you not want these plays to happen? And that's kind of the point that Dallas Eakins made. And while I think that the narrative around we need to give Dallas Eakins a bunch of praise for this is a bit overblown, because I think that at the end of the day, it's a highly skilled play, and any coach should be allowing their highly skilled players to make those plays.
Yeah.
I think what the John Tortorella quote said is, this is not a normal thing for hockey, though, for hockey coaches to allow that. And so I think Eakins deserves some credit, but it resulted in a goal. So, I mean, I don't know if he deserves all the credit in the world for allowing his players to do this, because it's resulting in positive plays for the team, right?
No, it's more so it should be noted. It should be noted that he's not getting in the way of it.
He's not stifling it.
Yeah, exactly. And that is half the battle here. So, yeah, I mean, with Zegras, though, it's funny because last season, I'm thinking back to, it was a game against LA, I believe, where Max Comtois tried the Michigan. I don't know if you remember this, and didn't pull it off at all. And Drew Doughty did not like it. Drew Doughty gave him a stick to the midsection. And it's funny because no one really talked about that afterwards. It was like ho-hum, just whatever. And, but when those plays actually work, then all of a sudden, right, for certain people, it's like the end of the world. So it's just funny kind of how, and I think even fellow players around the league resented a little bit. Like you saw the Draisaitl.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm expecting a rival player in the same division to fawn over his opponent's play, because, a lot, like we talked about over the weekend, a lot of guys can do that. It's just the fact that he pulled it off.
Yeah.
So jealousy is a thing, I guess.
And yeah, real brief on the Torts comments. They're so dumb. And at the end of the day, I don't want to give it too much breath here.
No, it honestly is not worth it. It's really not worth it.
True. Then you're right. So there it is.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's okay to briefly address it. Like, all I will say is this: if you think that you're gonna lose fans, or that you are losing fans, and that this is somehow bad for the game, and that the game used to be an honest, hard game, then I would implore whoever's making that claim, which in this case is John Tortorella, to actually provide evidence, because he did not back up his claims whatsoever. If anything, the hard, honest game that he is calling for, that he is pining for, you saw the clip on Twitter over the weekend of Timo Solani in the 90s against the Rangers just getting mauled, for 45 seconds straight on a shift. and that was normal back then. So I guess that's honest hockey. The losing fans comment. Again, no evidence provided. And if anything, the evidence that we have completely points to the contrary with the 50 million views and people that you might not expect to post about it. So anyway, that's all I'll say about it is it's just like, okay, you can have a hot take. I have hot takes all the time, but you better come with some kind of argument instead of just saying whatever you seem to feel like. It's almost worse when you say something like that and then don't even have anything behind it, because it shows that either you're lazy and you're not actually willing to make your case and you're just expecting people to believe you because you're an NHL coach or were an NHL coach, or B, you're just afraid to actually say what you think and why you think it, which either way, like those are not good reasons. Yeah. Those are not good outcomes.
And here's the other thing. At the end of the day, it's not as if this was like a 5-0 blowout where Zegras pulled this play off.
No, this was a clutch goal.
Yeah.
This was in a close game.
This was a goal that created the game win, or this was a play that created the game-winning goal. And by the way, we should mention, seeing as we've talked about Zegras a bunch, Sonny Milano deserves a little bit of credit here for batting that puck in perfectly. And that also is a ridiculously high-skilled play after the night before batting in the puck backhanded against the Capitals.
I mean, that's just what he does. Yeah. He's just really good at that. And it's funny because the day after, I got a bunch of videos sent my way on Twitter of, the draft year videos of Sonny Milano with all the puck tricks, which I had remembered watching those like as a kid, which is kind of dating me. But I remember watching those and now, seeing all those skills come to fruition in a game. I mean, it's pretty cool. It was a cool moment. It was, it's really nothing. And, I will say this also. I was watching Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday, which of course it's Saturday. But Elliot Freeman made a comment that, okay, it was a bad take by Tortorella, which he disagrees with, but it doesn't deserve to be piled on. I just want to know, like, why wouldn't it be? It's such a bad take to say that not like. Well,
it's the fact that Torts doubled down on it when the thing that's I think missed here right with that is that Ray Ferraro came to John Tortorella afterwards and they actually had a bit of a back and forth on it, and Tortorella doubled down on it and didn't really provide, like you said, any actual evidence to his argument, whereas Ferraro said he's like, I would have no issue with that if I'm on the bench. The only reason why I would have an issue is if that puck gets missed and it goes the other way for a dangerous chance and ends up as a goal in the back of my net on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the problem I have with saying that it's, people shouldn't pile on it is because think about what was actually said. Like it's ignoring the substance of the statements. Like he said, literally, this will lose fans.
True. That final statement's so bad.
Like think about how serious of a charge that is. So yeah, I didn't love that. I feel like that was just kind of a weird thing to say, but that's why we should probably cut this part of it short, because it's just dumb all around. That side of the reaction was dumb. Celebrate the achievement, celebrate the goal, and celebrate the fact that we get to watch number 46 every night.
Yeah, and I mean,
and number 12.
Yeah, and the thing with Zegras is this was his coming out party, and you saw him interviewed all over the place.
Yep.
And there could not be a better representation for hockey than Trevor Zegras, I think, in the sense of a very personable guy, someone that plays the game in an entertaining fashion with speed and skill and kind of essentially the way that you want to broadcast the game overall. And he has a personality behind him also. And this is exactly what you want. And I mean, that exchange, for instance, with Buchigras in the post-game interview. Like, the part with Callahan was fine, great, talked about it. But just the exchange with Buchigras between with Zegras and him about seeing him at, what was it, Dunkin' Donuts or whatever it was, it just kind of shows the personality that Trevor has and that he's willing to kind of give that. Like, this guy's 20 years old and doing that. Like, this is what you want. This is how you market the game. You put these stars out there. You let them have the space they need. And the thing is, I don't know if there's been someone with his skill that has this kind of personality.
Well, I think what makes it different with Zegras is that it doesn't feel fabricated with him. Like, it feels like this, it feels genuine. It feels authentic. Maybe it isn't. Like, who knows? We don't actually know the guy, but it comes across as this is just who he is, as someone who genuinely just absolutely loves the game, is having the time of his life out there. I said this in our Discord. It reminds me a lot of young Alex Ovechkin when he first entered the NHL. Like, couldn't speak English, but always had the big smile. There was always he was always in front of the cameras, and it's like that. Like, it's just this positive energy that you can just latch onto as a fan and just enjoy watching him go out there and do his thing. And like there's other stars in the league who I think the NHL is trying to push, like let's say in Austin Matthews, but with all due respect, like with Austin Matthews, like he does not have that charisma.
No, he doesn't.
Of a Trevor
and,
Zegras.
And Sean Seabolt brings up USA born, so easier to connect with as a question. I don't think it's necessarily that. I just think I think it's just personality. Like, for instance, just look at him versus Jamie Drysdale, and this isn't saying, like, everyone has a different personality, and that's perfectly fine.
I think there is something to that, but not exactly in the way that the question is being posed. So I think that USA Hockey makes, like, the modern USA Hockey makes more room for individual talent, individual play. I think it fosters more creativity, whereas I think Hockey Canada is really more focused on fitting the mold, cookie cutter, being one of the guys. And hey, like it's worked out great for Hockey Canada, but I think this is also partly maybe a product of USA Hockey, the American culture, and just like American athletic culture with known for its kind of magnetic stars. Who knows? But yeah, there could be something to that. It's also just about him. Like there hasn't been another guy like him in the last 10 years, right? So that's why we don't want to go too crazy with the
and yeah, we're definitely going way overboard
that's
here.
fine.
But I think that the Ducks have a star on their hands, and I think we've started to see the Ducks Twitter account really step out and become entertaining and fun.
They know,
and they know what they have there. And I think the Ducks also need to start realizing that and push him everywhere.
I mean, they have been.
I know, but continue.
He's on every
to do
podcast.
That.
He's on friggin' ABC7. Like, I think they're doing a good job with him. And I think that for a while it really felt like the Ducks were almost holding back with Zegras, right? Just in the way that they were pushing him out to the media, or even just the way kind of the broadcast crew would always couch their comments about him. And it felt like there was this push from within the organization to not inflate his ego or something. And now it feels like that's just completely gone away.
Let me ask you this.
It's just let him flourish.
Let me ask you this before we start to transition to the actual games outside of the singular play.
This is worth a 20-minute discussion.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. What do you think would have been the reaction to all this if Bob Murray was still the general manager? Do you think he would have had a similar reaction to Torts?
It's hard to say.
It is. It's just something that popped into my head today.
Because for Bob Murray, I mean, it's happening for his team, right?
True.
Maybe he doesn't like it,
but
as much.
Torts said if it was his team, he would have a conversation with them.
I mean, fuck Torts. I don't know what else to say.
No, but Torts and Bob Murray are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, but I think it's just different when you're the guy who drafted him, right?
That's a good point.
It's different when it's happening on the team that you put together, right? Like you get to take credit for it. So I think that Murray would have been fine with it, to be honest.
Okay. It was just a random thought I had.
I think that the way that they're pushing him out now might not have happened if Murray was still around.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yep. Agreed. So, want to briefly jump into the games, though, before we maybe get into some more big picture topics from this past week?
Yeah, so I think the way that makes sense to me to go over the past week, and I think this is something maybe we can do just moving forward, because I think it's hard to go through each game recap. Mm-hmm. Like these are games that have already been seen. Also, there was literally 5 games in the last 7 days, so
there's been 4 games since we last did a podcast.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So just kind of let's just start with the big picture, just the 10,000 feet view of this team.
The 10,000 feet view of this team is that the Ducks finished the road trip going 3-1-1.
Yeah,
and
they're first in the Pacific.
Granted, everyone should stop using points. Use points percentage. It's so much when the Ducks have that many games in hand.
Let the headline slide. They're first in the Pacific.
Sure.
I agree with you, by the way.
I hate it. I
mean,
it.
Calgary hasn't played as many games, and they're now shut down.
Yeah.
So
the Ducks are legitimately like the second best team in the division, though. because it's
Sure.
six,
Yeah,
seven. It's like they're ahead of Edmonton. So
like if you were to power rank this division, the Ducks aren't first.
no,
But they're not this like distant second or third. I
no,
don't
no,
think.
not at
Like,
all.
that's the difference.
And so they came off this road trip where missing Ryan Getzlaf, missing Adam Henrique, obviously still missing Comtois, still missing Max Jones, and they were able to find a way to get 3 wins, 1 loss, and one shootout loss to the Capitals. And I mean, that shootout loss they probably should have ended up winning. And
even,
so
or like the Pittsburgh game as well. They deserved at least a goal.
So like they were in
out.
all of these games. It's not as if there was even a blowout. And so for them to do that on this road trip was honestly really impressive, because I think coming in, you and I both thought a 2-2-1 record would have been about right. And so maybe beat Buffalo, beat Columbus, lose an overtimer, shootout to St. Louis, and lose to Pittsburgh and lose to Washington. And that would be a very respectable, good outcome for this team. And they went 3-1-1. And so I think from the big picture perspective of making the playoffs, the Ducks did themselves a huge favor on this road trip with the amount of points that they picked up. And
yeah, I mean, looking at Money Puck, they're at 77.4% probability of making the playoffs now.
And then from a 5-on-5 perspective, they played some good hockey. I mean, Buffalo was a bit of a weird game where it was just like a very low event game on the whole.
It was not a awe-inspiring game, just from an entertainment perspective.
Which is hilarious because it came with the moment that we will be talking about for years.
Outside of that goal, I swear I don't remember anything else from that game.
I don't either. 42.3% expected goals for percentage, but against Columbus, 52.5 expected goals for percentage, 48.3 against Pittsburgh, and then 63.3 against St. Louis. So kind of up and down a bit, but even the ones that they were below 50, they were close.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were in every game on the road trip, 5-7, and they played well. I mean, I think from that perspective, it was a really, really good road trip. There's obviously going to be little things that we'll start to get into as critiques, but I think overall this was a really good road trip for this team. The Zegras line was really good. Ryan Getzlaf coming back. Troy Terry, I mean, dear God, the guy's a superstar right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because this podcast so far is just very on brand for us, just Zegras and now Terry. But it's just worth mentioning that Troy Terry is on a 48 goal pace right now, and it's not just the numbers, because we've talked about that endlessly with him. It's the fact, like, just watch him play right now. I got a DM tonight from Dmitry Filipovich, and he was saying I'm putting together a Troy Terry mixtape for tomorrow. And my God, this guy and the stick handling. And I'm like, yeah, like, yes, welcome.
You should find the clip of me. What was that? 3 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying though, is that right now, just from an eye test perspective, when he has the puck on his stick, not only is he keeping it, but he's going through guys.
Yeah.
He's going through, he's going around. He's snapping it around. He's getting shots on net. He is a man possessed.
So we're just gonna completely shill out and plug Dimitri's podcast again, the PDO cast, because
it was good
on the episode with Jack Hahn when they were talking about Trevor Zegras. They were talking about that Jack Hahn, and for those that don't know, great follow on Twitter, great analytical mind, really dives into the systems of play and looks at individual players from essentially highlighting their play and everything along those lines. But he brings up the fact that he wants to see players actually fail at a younger age and try to attempt plays and fail as they're doing it and not make the safe play. Because if they continue to make the safe play, then that's all they're going to ever going to do, which is not ever going to create chances. He wants to see a player try to go through a guy and fail as a result of that. Because it shows that they have this willingness and eventually it's going to click. And that's, I think, it was more so related to Trevor Zegras in that moment, but that I think very much applies to Troy Terry.
Oh yeah, they were talking about Zegras. Yeah. Well, that's the thing with Terry, so this is something Dimitri's mentioning to me, but it's like every time he's going down the ice, he's trying to put the puck between guys' skates. And that is actually one thing that I've noticed with Terry this season that he hasn't done as much of in the past. His ability to either slip the puck through a guy's skates or underneath their stick.
Yeah.
It's become like a tool that he goes to with regularity at a high rate. And that's not something he's always had. And of course, to be able to not only develop that skill, but use it in a game, like you were just saying with what Jack said, is you have to fail a few times. And with Terry, again, it just feels like right now everything is coming together for him. And if this is just who he's going to be for the next 3-4 years, the Ducks are going to have to pay up very soon.
Yeah.
But they have one of the best value contracts in the league. I would go so far as to say that right now, Troy Terry is in the top whatever underrated players in the NHL. Like top, he might be the most underrated player in the league.
I think that's probably fair.
Because even though he got people's attention with the point streak, and rightfully so, I still don't think that people understand how impactful this guy is.
The conversation around it was always about how it's not sustainable for him, and not necessarily diving deeper into say it was more so saying, oh, who's this Troy Terry guy? Oh, he must just be a nobody that's gotten hot, instead of actually understanding, oh no, he's very good and is finally actually getting rewarded for what he's done. I mean, you saw it against Pittsburgh, where he got all in St. Louis. He finally was getting all the chance, or he was getting a bunch of chances. Wasn't going in against Pittsburgh, but of course, this is what happens, and this is why we look at things like expected goals, look at things like scoring chances, look at things like shot attempts, because the more that you get, eventually it's going to end up in the back of the net. And I mean, that's what you saw from Troy Terry, is that he got a bunch of chances, and they didn't go in against Pittsburgh, but he continued to get those chances against the Blues, and it started to go in, and eventually led to him having the OT winner with a penalty shot.
That was the classic quintessential Troy Terry experience, because he draws a penalty, which turns into a penalty shot, which he scores on. Like that was so on brand for him. I actually think in that game he could have drawn 5 penalties. And the refs just weren't calling. I mean, the first penalty wasn't called until halfway through the game for either team. One thing that did change for Terry, though, in the last 2 games, one, Ryan Getzlaf being back in the lineup, because with Sam Steele and Vinny Lettieri, it wasn't awful. They actually had their last game together before Getzlaf came back. They were actually quite good. But before that, it was tougher sledding. And it's funny because if you look at the shot, now this is a bit of a tangent. If you look at the shot rates for different Ducks players, Vinny Lettieri is way up there this year. When he's out there, he's shooting the puck a lot. So good for Vinny.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of bears itself out in the numbers. If you look at Troy Terry with Ryan Getzlaf this season, 299 minutes together, 55% expected goals, 4%. Actually, might scratch that. Terry is very good because he has a 55% expected goals, 4% with Getzlaf or without Getzlaf. It's kind of crazy actually how he was able to drag Sam Steele and Vinny Lettieri to those numbers when you think about it.
The game before the Pittsburgh game. The game before Getzlaf came back.
I mean,
they're all blending together. But that game,
expected goals for per 60 goes up with Getzlaf, but expected goals against goes up slightly also. But yeah, it's one of those things where Troy Terry is just absolutely excellent. One thing, can we talk about before we get to our ad read?
Should we do that first?
Do you want to?
Because I feel like we're long-winded today, which is fine.
Yeah,
I'm here for
it. All
it.
right, so here we go. We're gonna get a word from our sponsor then.
Okay.
The holiday season is here, and with it comes the yearly questions of what do I wear to non-ugly sweater parties, and how do I maximize my time savoring holiday moments and minimizing my time shopping for gifts. Fear not, wary holiday wanderer. Mac Weldon has all the answers. Whether it's an office party, a party with family and friends, or just a holiday party of you, your couch, and a game on TV. That's the best party. Mac Weldon has all the essentials to keep you stylish and comfortable throughout the season, and their innovative daily wear system has taken the hard work out of outfit planning with pieces designed to work together for any occasion, save you time, and sparing you any extra holiday stress. We're talking top-notch best-selling bottoms and underwear and accessories that will please even the Scroogiest guy on your list. With Mac Weldon, your holiday heavy lifting will be complete within minutes. I mean, Felix, guess what right now?
What?
I'm wearing my Ace sweatpant from Mac Weldon right now.
Is it weird that I'm doing the same?
I mean, not really. I mean, here's the thing. The Ace sweatpant is amazing. It's perfect, especially as it's now gotten chilly. It's dropped below 60 degrees. Sometimes even in the 40s in the morning. The Ace sweatpant is one of the perfect sweatpants you can find because it keeps you warm. And I'm just going to say this. They're pretty stylish where you could just wear it out. You want to go walk to go get Starbucks, go out, go to the market. You can wear these and not look like a schlub. They're fantastic. They're exactly what you want. Right, Felix?
Yeah, I mean that's always the drawback when you want to wear sweatpants is that very comfortable, but you're gonna look like a bit of a slouch when you're out in public.
Yeah.
So with the Ace sweatpants, you get all the benefits of comfort, whether you're home or out and about, but you will also look good doing it. I can't recommend these enough. And I also can't recommend the radius pant enough just because it is that time of year where you might be going to something a little more dressed up. You might be visiting some family or friends, what have you, and those will get you through it. They're comfortable. You're going to look classy. You really cannot go wrong with any one item from Mack Weldon.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the Ace collection pairs super soft, high performance fabric with unmatched style. And then you also have all of the warm knit collection and the features that features shirts, vests, pajama pants, and more. And really helps you on your chillier winter days. It uses innovative technology that uses your own body heat to keep you at the perfect temperature. These products from Mack Weldon have me saying something I never thought: I'm ready for the cold. Yeah, I never thought I would say that, but I'm feeling ready for it. And a gift set, what a concept. One gift that holds many gifts inside, and one is better, and no one is doing better gift sets this holiday season than Mack Weldon with limited edition color drops and a bevy of new releases. Their holiday gift sets are the perfect present for any guy on your list. This holiday season, every guy deserves to wear unforgettable clothes that he loves for the moments with loved ones that he'll never forget. That's why Mack Weldon is always on my holiday list for giving and getting. So everyone, for 20% off your first order, visit mackweldon.com/CTP and enter promo code CTP like Crash the Pond. That's mackweldon.com/CTP, promo code CTP for 20% off. Mack Weldon, get it right this holiday season.
Yeah, for any last minute Christmas shoppers, they also ship fast. So just keep that in mind. Just throwing that out there.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly.
Now, we've gone on and on about this team, and I think that what I asked you last week and your response and my response, I stand by it. The Ducks are a good team right now. No question.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're 12th in the NHL right now in expected goals for percentage, which is not something I thought I'd see this season. Kind of interesting though that they're 12th at 50.6%. Like they are barely above break even.
They've kind of been hovering around break even after the beginning of the season where they started so low. But I mean, to be fair though, they haven't had a fully healthy lineup and they've been doing it. And I think that that's a good sign for them. Once Adam Henrique comes back, that will be a boost for them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they started off so poorly that they're still just working through that initial start. I mean, it feels like ancient history now, but if they just continue this, they're only going to keep trending up. So, yeah, I stand by what I said last week. They are playing very well. There's elements of this roster, like the Zegras, Milano, Raquel line, Getzlaf, Terry, and, Henrique when he's healthy. Like that top six is rock solid right now. They're getting good play from their top four on the blue line. The third pairing is very spotty, to say the least, with the trio of Mahura. Well, the rotation between Mahura and Simon Benoit and Kevin Shattenkirk.
Mm-hmm.
But a trend that has creeped its way up, and now we have to talk about it on the podcast, is that, and this was really, I mean, it's really been apparent in the last few games because the Ducks have been involved in so many overtime games and so many games where there's been lead changes. It begs the question, why does this keep happening? And you and I were, as we were watching the game yesterday, we were texting saying, Eakins is barely playing the Zegras line, the Lundestrum line is now the shutdown line, and there's a lot of narrative out there right now about how we can start here. The fact that Isac Lundestrom is this key contributor for the Ducks, that he is an important part of the roster, that he's taken major strides as a player, that he is now a guy. I mean, these are words not just from me. Like this is from Dallas Eakins, Eric Stevens quotes in his article today. Like this is from the team basically. That he is. I mean, they're talking about him in the same paragraph as Sammy Paulson, right? As that third line glue guy that any championship team needs. And I think it's important, although I, for one, would love to see a guy like Isac Lundestrom take that next step and fully realize his potential. I think it's important for us to kind of add some context to this conversation, because any look at the numbers any look at the shot differentials or expected goals differentials when Isac Lundestrom is on the ice will not lead you to the conclusion that we are being served up by the team and different media outlets right now. Agree or disagree?
Agreed. You look at on ice metrics, and right now on the screen I have his RAPM charts. I had his JFresh WAR chart, which has upgraded somewhat this year from 26th percentile to 43rd percentile, but a lot of that is going to be finishing reasons. His even strength offense has gone down to 2%. Even strength defense gone down from 66th percentile to 60th percentile. And then if you look at kind of RAPM, and this for people who cannot see the screen, RAPM, everything from an offensive production standpoint is negative. And then the only things that are positive are shot suppression, shot attempt suppression. Even expected goal suppression is below break even or right at break even. And so I think it's an important piece to bring up, because I mean his on ice numbers haven't been good this year, and I think that kind of bears itself out. Where I think the important thing to understand, and this is something that's worth always repeating as we get new listeners, people that don't necessarily understand these things that we're not always talking about with WAR percentile and things like that, is that the JFresh chart that I mentioned with the percentile of WAR and RPM, they isolate for individual performance. So they go about it to isolate the player's performance as best they can, away from their teammates and away from their opposition, so you can look at individual impact on the game. And then it's not a perfect thing, but you can then take a look at their on-ice metrics and understand if they're the driving factor there, if in some ways they are a passenger, or they're being dragged down by someone else, or if they have good numbers, if they're a passenger on that line. And so you look at the lines, and Isac Lundestrom is in the at 44% expected goals for percentage throughout the season. And I mean, I've had people try to tell me, well, that's because he's obviously matched up against the other team's best line, so of course he's going to have a bad expected goals for percentage. And I think the proper response to that is the other team's top line, right, is going to be playing majority of the game. And so if that other team's top line is playing the majority of the game and they're out-chancing your line, you're probably going to lose the game most of the time. So if that's the case, maybe Isac Lundestrom shouldn't be being put in that situation where he's going to be matched up against the other team's top line all the time. And so in some ways, I think Isac Lundestrom, you can isolate it into two different parts. I think the role he's been put in is not proper to his play. I think he'd be much more suited for, if you want to use him in a third line role, don't use him in these high leverage matchup situations. Give him some softer matchups that he can potentially take advantage of and start actually kind of generating a bit more offense. But you can also say that in the role that he's been put in, he hasn't performed that well because he's been getting dominated. Having said all of that, though, I think it's also important to note is that this is not to say that he's not going to become a good player. He's had good flashes, I think. I think, would you agree with this? That I think I'm more optimistic about Isac Lundestrom's future in the NHL than you were in prior seasons. Due to the fact that I think he's had some flashes of offensive ability that I didn't necessarily think were there. But those flashes of offensive ability don't negate all of the other plays that have happened.
Right. I mean, with Lundestrom, it is a multifaceted conversation, because on one hand, the results are pretty, like, they tell a pretty consistent story, which is that when he's on the ice, the Ducks are getting outplayed by a healthy margin. But yeah, when you isolate for just watching him individually, there's a lot of good to take away. I think that his skating has improved, both in a straight line and in terms of his pivoting, his quick, tight turns. Like, all of that has gotten better. I think that his abilities with the puck, right, dancing through guys that when he's flying down the wing, like, that has improved. You still kind of want to see him, either shoot more or work on his shot, and that will come over time. Guys add to their arsenal, as we were talking about with Terry. So there's definitely some positive there to take away, but then you get into what actually happens when he's on the ice, and what actually happens just it's not helping the Ducks right now. And it's not all on him, but he's also the one that's out there. So you can't really fully separate those two. And here's where I think the distinction, or I guess the disparity in perception, comes from. So the expected goals for percentage when Lundestrom is on the ice, as you already said, 44% roughly, right? Which is, I mean, it's worse than like Sam Steele. It's he's 18th on the team out of 23 eligible skaters who have played a minimum of 50 minutes of time on ice at 5-on-5. But when you look at goals for percentage, so these are actual goal scores, not what you would expect to happen. He's at 60.36 goals for percentage. Like the Ducks are winning the ridiculous share of goals when he's out there. And so why is that? Well, he's second on the team, and really he's first because Mason McTavish is first, and who barely played. He's first on the team in 5-on-5 save percentage, 95.29%. So really when he's out there, or sorry, he's fourth. My bad. I was looking at Bogru. He's fourth. When he's out there, and that would be a 94.84 save percentage. When he's out there, the Ducks are just getting like a ton of saves from John Gibson. Like he's just standing on his head in that particular time. But that's a small sample, and we know how Gibson has been overall. So that's bound to come down.
And the point I want to make here on top of that is some people will say, well, isn't that maybe a sign that the chances are coming from less dangerous areas, which is causing a higher save percentage? And so this is Isac Lundestrom, if you're looking at expected goals against, which expected goals take into consideration shot quality against, he is the 7th worst player on the team in terms of expected goals against per 60. The players that are worst are Benoit, Silverberg, Grant, Mahura, Grew, and McTavish. And so this isn't a situation where there's chance limitation against, which is causing a higher save percentage. It's a situation of just essentially a smaller sample size where it hasn't necessarily had a chance to normalize yet. And
I mean,
so,
I hate to say it, trigger warning to the Lundestrum fans, but he's getting lucky. Like the results he's getting in terms of the goals for and against right now are not due to his own play. They're just due to kind of variance, which happens with goalies, right?
Yeah, let me ask you this, though. And this is key because, as we said, RIPM and those numbers are supposed to isolate for individual performance.
Yeah, so this is the other facet.
But they can't perfectly do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's had to play with Jakob Silverberg and a rotating door on that left wing outside of Silverberg.
Yeah, Mason McTavish,
Derek Grant, whoever else you want to throw there. And Silverberg hasn't been good this year. I think that's not necessarily, maybe people don't want to hear that, but he hasn't. He's been good defensively like he's always been, but kind of on the same wavelength as Isac Lundestrom of being very poor offensively. And so I'm just kind of curious for your thoughts on how much of it do you really put on Lundestrom, how much do you put on the situation, how much do you put on his line mates?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to point that out. Like, again, I'm not trying to say that this is all a big referendum on Lundestrom. I mean, I do want to give Silverberg some slack because he got COVID. And, like, we just still don't really know how that affects people long term. So that happened. His play hasn't been good, though. Like, the results aren't there. And, you know, Derek Grant, that kind of speaks for itself. When he's out there, he's just a black hole in terms of moving the puck up ice, getting offense. And Mason McTavish, who had flashes with the Ducks and I think brought a little more to the table offensively, but still nothing to write home about. So that doesn't help, especially a guy like Lundestrom, who is a puck possession type player, who is a guy who likes to cut back, who likes to distribute. That's not really going to gel quite as well with guys like Silverberg, your Grants of the world, who like to just chip it in, get it deep, and work away below the goal line. He is a guy who likes to carry it in and create offense that way. So I think from a stylistic perspective, that definitely hurts his results. And I do think that in a better situation, I think that there's a serious case to be made that he could do better.
Yep.
But we don't really have that counter example. We don't really have that. And this is all that we've got to work with this season. And I think that we can't disregard it, even though all of the counterfactuals could be true, even though all of these factors could definitely be bearing themselves out. You still need to be fair and say that the results have just not been good and that they do not match the public narrative whatsoever.
Yep, agreed. And so let me ask you this, because this is the important question if we're going to call out things like this. And it's a really weird thing because for so long we've been critical of things that have been obviously negative. So it's interesting where the team's good and now we're going to be critical, but I think as a part of that, we should definitely offer up our solution. And how would you remedy the situation?
Well, I think so. This is something that we were both looking at today and brought up on Twitter. It's that the Ducks, when they play to the score in a way that completely hurts their chances of winning when they have a lead. So right now, when they're up by one, so this is by natural stat trick, but when they're up by
and up on the screen, I have Hockey Viz's data for the 5v5 unblocked shot rates by score.
Yeah, so when they're up by one, they're 18th, I think it is, in expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, which isn't great, but it's roughly middle of the pack. It's fine. You're limiting chances against, but in terms of expected goals for per 60, they drop down to 28th. So when they're leading at all, they go into this is Carlisle-esque turtling from the Ducks when they get leads, and I think that the solution here, if you're Dallas Eakins and co, is just to play don't play to the score quite as much, or if you're going to play to the score, don't just completely sit back. You do not have the horses to just shut a team down, right? There's a way that you can succeed playing this style, but Isac Lundestrom doesn't seem to be your shutdown center right now. So instead, the solution would just be either roll your four lines or just play your top nine equally distributed throughout the last 10 minutes or whatever when you're leading. Because right now, the Zegras line is one of the league's best play driving lines. Yeah. And it's no coincidence to me that the Ducks are giving up leads when those guys stop playing basically down the stretch.
Yep. And so just for those that can't see the screen, this is from Hockey Viz, really great chart and data. But when the Ducks are down one, and so what it does is it breaks it up based upon score situation and where the Ducks are at in terms of relative to league average. So when the Ducks are down one, they generate about 23% more chances than league average when down a goal, but they allow about 12% more chances against, expected goals against, when down one. So the Ducks are kind of really open, fun, fire wagon hockey whenever they're down a goal, which makes sense. They have the guys to go. That's what you want. You want to open it up. But when tied, the Ducks generate 4.8% less expected goals for than league average, and allow 1.9 expected goals against less. So essentially, they are lower event at even strength than they are than league average. And then once again, when they're up one, even less. They do a good job of limiting chances against, negative 1.1 or 1.1 percentage less expected goals against, but they also generate negative 13.6. So the Ducks really don't try negative 13.6 expected goals for. So when the Ducks are up one, they don't try to finish off games. They don't try to really lock it down. And that can also be seen if you look at ice time. And this is a coaching strategy thing more so than it is a actual, I think, player issue. And so, for instance, if right now up on the screen, it's kind of hard to see, but it's also from Micah over at Hockey Viz. It's a chart showing how guys are ice times deployed in different score situations. And you can see Trevor Zegras right here. I think you can see my cursor is this gray line where it's really high if the Ducks are down 3 goals, 2 goals, 1 goal. Then when it goes down to 0 goals, pretty stark drop off. Then from 0 goals to 1 goal, another big drop off. Up 1 goal to up 2 goals, even further drop off. And so instead of overthinking it, galaxy braining it, where you're essentially modifying your lineup, playing different guys, playing Derek Grant a bunch because whatever reason you want. Like, look at Derek Grant. Derek Grant doesn't play when you're down 2 goals. Yet when you're down 1, he plays a little bit, tied even more, and it just keeps going up and up and up. And it just doesn't make sense.
The thing is, it's not that it doesn't make sense because of the results. Like, okay, you have this theory of how you want to play depending on the score. And some teams have the players to pull that off. Like if Derek Grant was, say, a above average defensive player who can drive play the other way, then yeah, it makes sense. But I think that Dallas Eakins and co have this vision of what the names on the back of those jerseys mean in terms of what they can do late in a game. The results just don't agree with that whatsoever. And at a certain point, you have to adjust. You have to find a way. And, this is why when I think people are quite reasonably excited about the Ducks being back in the playoffs and having this opportunity in a weaker Pacific division. But this is the kind of stuff that gives me a little pause in terms of a playoff matchup with Dallas Eakins, because is he going to coach his way out of a win? Because that's what's happening. Not always, but this type of strategy is inviting the other team back in when you're ahead. So,
I
think, maybe just don't don't go into total shutdown mode.
Like
when you go up one.
when the Ducks are up a goal, Zegras doesn't play the final 10 minutes of the game.
Because like here's the thing we have to also acknowledge is that every team sees a drop off when they're ahead typically because the other team is pushing so hard, right? It's score effects. This is something we talk about on the show, but it doesn't mean that you have to drop off that drastically, right?
No, and you don't need to you don't need to bench one of your you don't need to bench one of your best players.
Right. Well, because again, the theory is that you're putting out a safe player, so you're going to limit your chances against, which theoretically should mean that you're not going to get scored on, which means you're not going to lose. But because those guys just cannot get it going the other way, you're taking off so much value off the table offensively that you're counteracting whatever net gain you're getting defensively.
Well, and here's the issue there is in what, like, Nick Delorier is not actually that great defensive. Like, he's okay defensively, but he's not that great. Like, Trevor Zegras is better defensively than Nick Delorier is. And that may seem a bit counterintuitive to people because people see Nick Delorier and they think he's this big body guy, he can hit. But if he's running around chasing guys and hitting them, that means he doesn't have the puck. Trevor Zegras, there was actually a play yesterday, and I wanted to highlight this, and I haven't necessarily been able, maybe I'll try to find it real quick while we're talking and highlight it real quick for people on YouTube for a split sec. But there was a play yesterday behind the net where Zegras kind of comes down and the puck's behind the net and he's getting pressured or he's racing a guy to a puck and he kind of slams on the break, does a little toe drag behind the net to pull it back and ends up making a really creative play to pull the puck with him and breaks the puck out and leads transition to the other side. And it's those types of plays that don't get enough airtime, like wasn't ever mentioned, but yet when a guy makes a big hit in the defensive zone, of course, that's going to get a highlight package. But that type of play from Zegras is way more influential in the grand scheme of the game as compared to a hit in the defensive zone that doesn't even account for a change in possession.
Yeah, but that's also the kind of play that makes a coach not want to put him out there late in the game, right? Because you don't want to see a guy try that behind his own net to break
if it
the
works.
Puck out. I agree with you. I'm not saying that that's what I think. I'm just saying that that's how coaches think.
True.
Right? That's why you're seeing Dallas Eakins behave this way. But look, the Ducks are winning. Right?
Yeah,
they're picking up these standing points, so it's not like we're trying to say it's all doom and gloom. But this is an area of improvement.
Well, it's the reason. The Ducks right now, we talked about this. They're about 50% expected goals for percentage.
Yeah, that could be higher.
Yeah, exactly. What could it be if they were better optimized? If things were done just ever so slightly different. And one thing I also want to mention, Bonnie, love you, Bonnie, but Bonnie saying hate on Lundestrum with a crying emoji. I think we should make it clear we
twisted in every direction to make sure to note that this isn't all on him.
Well, I also think that I think it's important to make sure this is clear. It's not hating on a player. I think it's more so highlighting the situation that they've been put into and that there are better situations that they can be put in. Real quick, before we move on to questions, what has been your thought on Sam Steele on the wing for Getzlaf and Terry?
How does every podcast end up having a Sam Steele conversation? This is insane.
Because his numbers actually aren't horrible.
Yeah, so I think that on that line, there's a couple things. On that line, even with Letary and Terry, they had some games with good numbers. And part of that is that Letary just shoots the puck a ton. Like, that guy just loves shooting. And as we're learning, might have to eat some crow on the making fun of the Elite 1T. Yeah, like he also shout out to the Ducks Twitter account for using that. Very good.
They definitely pay attention to us, by the way. What was it that we tweeted out and then like very soon after they tweeted out something similar?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
You pay attention to that more than I do.
Oh, it was the fact that I think I said because in our Discord someone threw out that the goal should be called the Flying Z, which is what the goal should be called. It's just way too good to not call it that. And then I think about a couple minutes later, the Ducks Twitter account put that out as an option for what to call the goal in a voting poll.
Okay, well,
that's what it was.
You asked me about Sam Steele, though. I think that, like, good for him that he's managed to string together a couple games where the numbers look good and where he has had some moments, but I am not ready to plan the parade for him quite yet. I think that there were also games in that where it just looked like he was completely lost on the ice and where he couldn't make a pass. I've said this a couple of times in our Discord, but the Sam Steele complete basic pass challenge is still
And
well and alive.
And one thing I want to highlight here, because me and a good listener of ours, Jacob the Dozer, were talking about this yesterday, and he was wondering what's the difference though when we talk about the fact that the play kind of dies on Steele's stick as compared to like last year when we would highlight that Troy Terry, even though he would turn it over, it was a good turnover because he's trying something. I think the difference there is Sam Steele's trying to make a pass that just isn't going to work, as compared to Terry or Zegras trying to make a high skilled play that ends up turning the puck over. It's a little. I think it's a different distinction to be made.
Well, yeah, I mean the difference is that with Terry, he was losing the puck at times where he was attempting plays that had a high upside, where he's trying to cut into the middle or he's trying to create a shot or what have you. With Steele, the puck is dying on his stick just regularly, like not even trying anything, right? And that is the issue. So for Steele, I think that he is truly beloved in the Ducks locker room. It doesn't seem like anyone has a bad thing to say about him. He sounds like a great guy, a hard worker, and I'm happy for him that things are kind of going relatively well. But I am still very skeptical that he's going to be this top 6 contributor if he can keep this up. And maybe he turns himself into just like a fine bottom 6 guy or fourth line guy, then great. The problem is the Ducks have a bunch of those guys already.
Like I think he could become, if he can play like this. Let's just say this type of play.
But like also, what is he playing like? Like we should define what we're saying. Like, just hasn't been awful. Like yes. I mean, I really want to know what. I think he had one game or maybe 2 games where he had a couple of nice passes to Lettieri, a couple little moves down low, but it hasn't been anything.
I mean, do you think that he's a serviceable bottom 6 player right now, though?
No.
Okay.
No, look at his numbers this year.
I'm just saying, based upon his numbers the last little bit, but granted, how much of that is playing with Troy Terry? Troy Terry just makes everyone better.
Here's the thing with Steele is that it's this merry-go-round where when he's not playing well on the wing, it's because he's not playing at center, which is his natural position. When he's not playing well at center, it's like, oh, well, maybe you got to try him in the wing. Like, when are we just going to admit that maybe he's not whatever you want to say. Maybe he's not a top 6 guy. Maybe he's not an NHLer. I think that he could be a fourth liner. I think he could be potentially a fine fourth liner, but he also might already be who he's going to be. Like, how old is he right now? 23, going on 24. So, I mean, he's right up there. He's 23 and he's going to be 24 in February. So, I mean, he is now like in the prime of his career, essentially.
Yep.
From a production perspective.
Yep.
So, hope it turns around for him or continues to do so. But and I'll be happy to eat crow if I'm wrong about this. But it's the opposite of Lundestrum, where the results aren't there at all. But you can at least see flashes that are consistently there with him, and he's getting the points. Like, there's still stuff that you can point to. Not so much with Steele.
All right. Anything else you wanna get off your chest?
I just want to be very clear with people that I think this is a good team. I think that there are so many things to be happy about if you're a fan. And I think it's okay to also point out that there are things that can flaws. Yeah, exactly. Like,
they're not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And this is true for any team. But I think with the Ducks, there's stuff that seems like it could be easily fixed. Like, it's not so fundamental that they can't do anything about it. Like the deployment stuff we talked about, fixable.
100%.
So fix it.
Yep. All right. Questions?
Yeah.
All right. So first off, as we've been doing lately, first questions will actually be from our Discord. So podcast question channel there. Anyone in our Discord, go in there. These questions will be asked. J Stone Drum says, has Zegras surpassed Getzlaf as the best Duck of all time after that assist?
Well, depends who you ask there. Is Solani the best Duck of all time? CJ and I had a good conversation about that, which you disagreed with, by the way. I do.
I very much disagree with. Zegras may have a better highlight reel assist at this point, though. I don't think Getzlaf has anything like that.
Yeah, what would be the biggest highlight of Getzlaf's career just in terms of a play?
The comeback on Cantella pass?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's got more than that, but I mean, it's just that Zegras play is an all-time play. around the league. So
yeah.
Yeah, can't really compare the
Yeah.
two.
Olaf is Berserker said, Ducks are overachieving in a rebuild year, so I have a pretty straightforward question for Felix. He didn't ask for Felix, but this is mainly for you. Will the Ducks stand pat?
People get really triggered now when I bring up the notion of a trade. But I can't imagine Jeff Solomon watching this and thinking, okay, the rebuild is over. We're deviating from the plan, and we're just going to double down and triple down on this current team, right? Like, there's just no way that that's what's going through their minds. So I don't think that they will stand pat, even though I know that that's said partly in jest. I think that they will still make some moves at the trade deadline.
Yep. JJ Stone Drum says, what are your guys' opinion on goalies having an A or a C?
Why not? Why the hell not? I've never I mean, maybe I'm biased because I am a former goalie, but I think it's great. Why not?
Yep. Only issue there is being able to skate out to talk to officials, but who cares?
I mean, goalies have skates, right? Like it's maybe a little further distance from the net than from the bench to the referees, but come on now.
Yeah. Let's see. Olaf is let's see. Sorry, there's a couple of those. D Frenzy says, is it if is Sylph still possibly injured? He looks kind of out of it out there, and his skating try is off almost. Do you think this is just who he is now? I remember his hot start, or do you think he can bounce back?
So my thing with Silverberg is I just think, and this is kind of goes with what we were saying about Lundestrum, is I just don't think that they should be playing in this shutdown role.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see Silverberg in a role where he's just kind of playing in a normal deployment, as opposed to, okay, you're shutting down the other team. I think that maybe at this point in his career, post hip surgery, this might not be the best spot for him, because I still think he looks fine when you watch him play. I don't really see, like, people that say he looks slower. I mean, when has Jakob Silverberg looked fast to you? He's not known for his speed at all. So I would say that he looks fine to me, but again, the role is just not optimal for him.
Yep. CJ KHL said, Getzlaff highlight, by the way, goal against the Wings, started from the boards, dangled in the slot, and went top shelf with back end.
Yeah.
Wasn't that, I think that was 2013 playoffs.
That sounds very familiar.
Yeah. OG of Wested said, assuming the likes of Manson, Raquel, and Lindholm are traded, who should the Ducks fully commit to in free agency?
In terms of the
free agent class.
The free agent class? Ooh. Weren't you looking at this the other day?
Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau is really the only one.
So yeah, we had a back and forth about this last night on Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, I think he makes sense because
he's a bit too old for me, but
sure. I mean, but you think that about anyone past 26.
Sure.
My thing with Gaudreau, though, is that he's still very, very good. And I think that his style he's a ceiling raiser for the next couple of years still. So that being said, he's the only one that I could maybe talk myself into, but it's still a situation where I think the Ducks have to be very, very careful. It is a push and pull, though, because you got to
fill out your roster somehow.
Yeah, and the window that they're in, I mean, Trevor Zegras has one more year on his ELC. So does Jamie Drysdale. Troy Terry has another year after this one. Like, they have this window where their best players are going to be on the cheap, and there is a way, I think, where you can capitalize on that by maybe spending a little more where you wouldn't. You just don't want that to cost you in 5 years.
Yeah, and that's the big thing here is that any guy that you give a contract to that's 27 or 28, you're going to be giving them a 6 or 7 year deal that will take them into their 30s.
This is why Jack Eichel would have been perfect.
Yeah, Jack Eichel. Yeah, exactly. And you don't want those guys to be on those 6 or 7 year deals where in their 30s they're getting paid a high sum, as Trevor Zegras has to then start getting paid. Jamie Drysdale has to get paid. Yep. Troy Terry has to get paid. Mason McTavish has to get paid.
Yeah, like if you're a Ducks fan who thinks that all these prospects are going to end up being great, that means they're going to have to get paid as well.
Yeah, like that's a part of it. And you look at what Jack Hughes was just paid. So this is a situation where in order to avoid a cap bind, you don't want to give out the money in UFA for UFAs because it never ends up working out well. Like it doesn't. Like there's no way around it. Like Adam Henrique might be one of the best UFA type deals I've seen, and that's just because he's actually aged really well.
Because he's playing well.
Yeah, like he's actually aged really well.
Here's my question with Gaudreau though.
Mm-hmm.
if he comes to Anaheim, does this mean Zegras wears 11?
I mean, Johnny Gaudreau can change his number.
Wow. You think Zegras is that kind of clout in the locker room already?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's here's the thing. We've talked about this at depth of like why you don't re-sign Ricardo Cal, why you don't re-sign Hampus Lindholm, why you don't re-sign Josh Manson. And so from my perspective, at least, I feel like I would be disingenuous to make that argument against them and then say, oh, go sign all these free agents though.
Well, sure, but and I agree with that. Like, I think you can't fully lean into it, but there are certain players who are like Johnny Gaudreau is a different tier.
I agree. It's just
Ricardo Cal.
I would be cautious about the term.
Sure, I think that's totally reasonable. The problem is it's
gonna take term to get him.
Like, why would you sign if you're a Gaudreau when you're like that team is not willing to give you the term that you could get somewhere else?
Yep, exactly.
Like, I mean, oh man, if you look at Johnny Gaudreau's
he's good.
RPM charts this season, like he's breaking the chart almost. So yeah, it would just be fun. I would just love to see that tandem, but probably not
randomly as we talked about Trevor Zegras' number. Can they just like let him come out on the ice on Wednesday in 11 or 13? Like, stop it with this stuff. Let him have his real number. Sell the jerseys.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you say something like that on Twitter, Jake, you get pushback for saying
which is bizarre. How do I get pushback for like that being like I criticize way more like ridiculous things? Like, how is that the thing that like gets me hate?
Yeah, I've just been on a mute/block spree lately. Like, people are just people are out for blood. Anyway.
Yeah,
totally. Wouldn't be a show without us complaining about our Twitter replies.
Olaf is Berserker said, "Will the Ducks with the Ducks in first in the division by points, not points percentage, at the quarter season mark? What are sustainable and unsustainable things you'd expect to resolve in their correct division or in their correct direction by season's end?"
Ooh, okay. I think Isac Lundestrom's on ice results will not continue to get nearly 95% save percentage. I think Ryan Getzlaf will turn it around ultimately, shooting wise.
Yeah,
I think he must. His shooting percentage has to only be lower now, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
I think some other maybe unsustainable things. I think John Gibson's PK save percentage will probably come down a little bit. And I think the penalty kill will start allowing some more goals, and the penalty kill won't be viewed in the same fashion that they are, and special teams will start to come back down to league average or potentially below that.
Well,
as
I was going to bring this up, the power play has fallen back down to earth in a big way. And I mean, you asked me about Sam Steele earlier. Like, he was getting minutes over Zegras on the power play against St. Louis. So there you go, folks.
Yeah. So I think maybe one thing that we might see course correct is I think that we might see Trevor Zegras start playing more. I think eventually something's gonna have to give there, I think. Because like that quote that Zegras had was so fascinating to me, because he's a guy that's not afraid
I think
to
he's
speak
frustrated.
He's not afraid to speak his mind. Or for those that don't know, I'll bring up the quote and read it. But he had a quote that Eric Stevens said today where basically he was asked about his usage and how it's obvious that he's not being used in late game situations. And he basically more or less said, I can only control what I can control. And I realized if I think about that and think about when I'm going out there and all this different type of stuff, I'm just going to get frustrated and not end up playing my game. So I need to not think about it.
Yeah, but again, it's this crazy thing where he would be right to be frustrated because he should be out there over some of the guys that are being used in those late games.
So here it is. It's one of those things I try not to think about, right? When I start trying to think when I'm going out, that's kind of when I lose a bit of my mental game. I don't really try to look into that or read into that at all. Just whenever my name's called, I'm ready to go over the wall for sure.
And by the way, that is the correct mindset if you're him. Like, why it serves you no purpose to sit there thinking about your ice time. Like, that's a fast track to frustration for him. So I think that his mentality is totally on the money there. But for us, from the comfort of our computers, we can say comfortably that he would be correct to be frustrated if he were, which I think he is.
Yep. Also, so now we're going to get into Twitter questions. This is just going to be a very question heavy end of the podcast because we still have to get to Twitch. But this is part of the fun, is answering the questions after we get through our topics. This comes from Big Sean David at Sean D. Salisbury. Said, knowing the landscape can be completely different. He sent this to me after the Buffalo game. Different by the time you all next get to recording. What's your unbiased look at the Calder race? Zegras seems to have the league promotion boost, but how does he statistically look against Raymond? Consistently scrambling my brain to think that Anaheim was linked to Raymond during that draft also. Thanks for everything you two do.
So the question is, do we think Zegras is going to win the Calder?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay. My unbiased view of the Calder race is I haven't really looked at Raymond or Seider too much, but it seems like they have been very, very good.
Yes.
And so it's like, I think that all these guys are worthy candidates. I think it will be decided by the points unless Seider just kind of gets that narrative bump of being the D-man that's playing the minutes. I don't know. What's your view on it?
Yeah, I think Mort Seider has been really good. I mean, you look at Jay Fresh's charts for all three of these guys.
He's been great.
All three of these guys have been excellent this year. Like this is one of the better races I think you could have in terms of the Calder race. I think it's going to come down to those three, and I think that Calder's ends up being they kind of only end up being forwards because of scoring. And so I think it's going to come down to Raymond and Zegras. I mean, Raymond right now has 24 points, Zegras has 22, and they've played the same amount of games. So
here's what I will say, though. Mm-hmm. It looks as though, just looking at like RAPM charts, that Seider's value is really driven by the power play. Whereas like with Raymond, great on the power play as well, but definitely like close to, I mean, I think you can say he's defensively not very good at 5-on-5. Zegras, to me, just again, this is just looking at the stats because I haven't watched the other two guys quite that much. Zegras, to me, seems like maybe the most well-rounded. If you look at 5-on-5, like he has a tremendous impact offensively and not great defensively in some aspects, but still good enough and better than Raymond or Seider. Mm-hmm. So this is pretty biased, but I would pick Zegras right now.
Yeah.
I'm fully going to admit that is my bias. I watch Zegras the most. I don't really watch the other two. I only have their stats to go off of, but Zegras to me does seem to have the most rounded game right now of those three.
Yep, and now we got this one from Peter Witherow. Said, on the next pod, I'd love to hear yours and Felix's take on Silfverberg this season. He's been completely invisible up to this point, but I haven't heard any criticism of him, unlike Henrique last year, even though they're both making over $5 million. What are your guys' thoughts on his lack of production and the free pass he seems to get from coaching? And he's saying, I'm saying this as someone who really likes Silfverberg.
Well, yeah, I mean, we already touched on it, but I'll get into it again. I think that if you look at his stats, it's funny, him and Lundestrum are in that same category where their shot attempt suppression is really good, or it's above replacement level, but then in terms of suppressing shot quality and generating shot quality, generating shot attempts, like they are just below break even. And I think that kind of tells me again that these guys are being pigeonholed into this role that isn't really appropriate for any of them. Like Silfverberg, I mean, he's almost 32 now. Lundestrum is 22. It doesn't feel like they should be this go-to defensive line. Or if you want to use them in that way, just don't completely rely on them in late game situations or hard match them against the top line. Like, sure, use them in a defensive way, but don't force it either. So I kind of want to give Silfverberg a little bit of a pass, as I did with Lundestrum earlier to a degree, because I just think that they're being asked to do something that might not be reasonable for where they are in their careers.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and here we go. William Lewis said, question for the pod. Does Zegras' personality make him more of a superstar than a McDavid?
Yes. I said this about Matthews earlier. Like, look, I totally respect what Austin Matthews is trying to accomplish, being kind of more of a marketable guy, being more of a face for the league. Like, I think that that's important. I think that we need guys like that, and I applaud everything that he's doing. That being said, I think he's a little cringy. Like, maybe is this like a wrestling term? Cringe? I don't know. It's just a little, it feels forced.
Why would that be a wrestling term?
I don't know. It's just like it feels like an act. Maybe that's what I'm thinking wrestling wise. It feels like an act a little bit. it just feels like, or even if it's not an act, let's put it this way. It's like Matthews says something that's just even relatively close to not being a cliche, and all of Canadian media just kind of ogles over it, right? So maybe it's not him that's forcing it so much, and maybe just more so the media that's forcing it, whatever the case may be. And then you have Connor McDavid, whose Instagram page is literally just ads for BioSteel, CCM, Adidas. Like it's just one big ad. So yes, Trevor Zegras is absolutely the biggest star in the league right now. I'm saying that with zero hesitation. He has the biggest star personality in the league.
Yep. Final one from Twitter. So Twitch coming to you guys next. CMonkey001 said, how many Ducks will be in the All-Star weekend?
1, Troy Terry.
I'm going to go with 2.
Well, isn't he the only one up for a vote? Or do you have to vote in the other ones?
Vote is only for the or for the captain.
Oh, okay. I mean, I feel like John Gibson will get in. Just because narrative, you know.
I think it's gonna be Terry and Zegras. Like
they're gonna get Zegras.
I don't know how you don't have Zegras there.
I agree.
I think 3-on-3 Vegas personality.
Yeah. When's the game supposed to be?
I don't know. February sometime, end of January, early February, something like that.
We'll see what that looks like.
All right. Yeah, exactly. All right. So here we go. Now time to switch. So for those of you watching on YouTube, yes, go to youtube.com/crashspawn. Please like and subscribe to our channel there. We have a good time. Or on your favorite podcast services. Take a look at our Twitch stream if you are on any of those services. Twitch.tv/CrashPond, where we do our live stream each and every Monday at 8 p.m. And you can help support the show. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month. You can be just like Bionic Chris, who resubbed for 14 months. Ginger Wolf resubbed for 16 months. We have Lockdown Late Night subbed for 26 months. Long-time subscriber. Justin, great to see you. Dan Grimshaw resubbed for 14 months. Kempafu, our good friend Tony, resubbed for 27 months. Tony added this little note to it that I think is worth reading. Silverberg could have made that play, talking about the Zegras goal, happen by himself by tossing it up, then skating around and batting it in by himself.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm defending Silverberg too much, but I think let's give him a chance. Give him a chance.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some questions. Sean Seabolt said, honest thoughts on Sam Carrick, and should Braden Tracy be playing over Buddy Robinson?
So I will say this. Sam Carrick has been very good.
Yeah.
in the role that he's being asked to perform, he has been excellent. Like it's actually you can't argue it at this point. Like Sam Carrick has been good. Sam Carrick is like the ideal final form of Sam Steele at this point. Just a guy who can contribute on a fourth line. As far as Buddy Robinson, I mean, is there any other reason that he's in the lineup besides the fact that he's 6'6"?
No, I mean I want to double check this. I feel
he
like
scored. I don't want to like bag on him.
His on ice numbers aren't horrible.
Well, that's the thing. That like Sam Carrick brings everybody along, right? Yeah. But yeah, he's looked fine. I mean, you know, big body, gets out there and finishes his hits, goes to the net. Those are all things that Eakins loves. But, you know, I think from a long-term perspective, I think that the Ducks are playing it a defensible way. They are saying, okay, a guy like Buddy Robinson, who is more of a plug-in-and-play guy, let's see what he has now in the NHL, whereas guys like Tracy and Perreault, they're going well right now in the AHL. Let's just kind of leave that alone. Let's just not mess with that for right now. I think that it's not a crazy thing. I think that you can argue the other way and say, yeah, why not find out what they have at the NHL level? But I don't think that there's a bad way to go about this for them right now.
Yep. Early on, I was able to backtrack and find it. Ben Zodell said, would love a rundown of the Ducks in the World Juniors. I know that there's 4 from the U.S. and Canada going. So I don't really know from Sweden if any of the Ducks prospects there are going to be going. But at least from the U.S. and Canada, the Ducks for sure have Mason McTavish and Olin Zellweger going because of Team Canada announcing their final roster. And then on the U.S. side, Pastajov and Ian Moore are in the prelim camp. So
should be fun.
Should be fun to be able to watch all of that and see it go down. I think Zellweger is going to be the name I really want to watch the most of, to be honest.
Pastajov for me.
Fair enough. Hardcore Luchador said, why is Grant even on this team? Couldn't the Ducks play anyone else? I mean, he
Yes.
was put
Good
on
question.
waivers and no one wanted him for free.
Yeah, I think that the coach loves him. I mean, that's really the only explanation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. NJ Devils fan 68 said MJF and CM Punk, who is the winning in the promo battle right now?
Oh,
I'm going to have to go with MJF, mainly because of the fact that him being like the ultimate babyface in Long Island made me laugh so hard. It was the best thing I think I've seen ever. So there you go, folks. Go watch wrestling. It's great.
don't.
Wow. Just that. Nate has a question for you, Felix.
Okay, let's hear it.
Would you like to know what it is?
Well, I'm expecting you to read it. Yes.
Take a guess from our discussion yesterday in Discord.
Oh God, is this about food or is it about hockey?
Hockey.
Okay, is this about Fowler?
Correct.
Okay, let's hear the question.
Fowler or Lindholm?
Fowler, for sure.
Explain your point.
My point is simple. Fowler has posted better results this year by a very wide margin. He's been consistently excellent since Eakins arrived. I think that Lindholm was good last year, but his play has dipped this year. Now, how much of that is playing with a checks notes 19-year-old? That could have something to do with it. But
wait, say that again. How old is he?
19.
So, how old?
Here's the problem with this, like the whole Lindholm thing, is that the people who will sing Lindholm's praises, might give him the excuse that he's playing with the 19-year-old, but those same people are also going to sing Drysdale's praises. So now I'm confused. Like, which is it? All this to say that I just think Cam Fowler's very, very underrated. And, Lindholm's fine. I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but put some respect on Cam Fowler's name. That's all I'm saying. He should be on Team USA.
Correct.
There you go.
Correct.
He deserves to be on Team USA more than Seth Jones. That is for sure.
Oh, 100%. All right. Yeah. Lockdown Late Night said, what do you think the likelihood that Manson is gone before the season ends?
That sigh I just let out is me thinking that he might be extended or re-signed or whatever the correct term is.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
I very much disagree.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think all three of the guys are gone between Raquel, Lindholm, and Manson?
I think Manson and Raquel are for sure gone. Lindholm I'm more iffy on.
Okay. Moving on.
Yep, moving on. Bonnie asked, what position does Jones return to?
So Jones is in a bit of a bind. I mean, I think when he gets back, someone has to go down, right? Like, I think Sam Carrick might be done. You're still going to have Adam Henrique in the fold. Do you put Jones with Silverberg and Lundestrum, and then you move?
I do that as the fourth line.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem, though, right? Is that those guys are going to be the third line. The what to do with Jones and Comtois question is something that the Ducks don't really have to think about right now. I'm sure they are thinking about it because they have to, but I'm very curious where, like, I think with Jones it's a little bit easier to fix because you can conceivably throw him onto the fourth line and be okay with it. But with Comtois, I don't think you can put Comtois over Milano. I don't think you can put Comtois over Henrique.
I think you have Henrique centering the third line and put Comtois with Getzlaf.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
I mean, that's not, that might not happen, but that's what they should do.
Yeah. So tough.
Yeah.
Tough situation.
Dalton Keys asked, question, who finished with more points for the goals, Tracy or Perreault?
Perreault.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Perreault.
Tracy hate.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
Kidding.
You put that out there for real.
Kidding.
For real. Wow. Who gets moved down when we get Max and Henrique back?
I think Carrick is probably done, although that seems...
I would expect Grant to get waived before Carrick does. Because here's the thing. They both need to go on waivers at this point.
Yeah.
Carrick needs waivers. He can't just be sent down.
Yeah. That, like I said, it's gonna put them in the tough spot. I mean, Jones
who has more value to the Ducks right now, Sam Carrick or Derek Grant?
Oh, Sam. I mean, that could be almost anyone on this team.
No, I know, but
but it is Sam Carrick.
It was in some ways rhetorical because I knew what your answer was going to be. But that kind of brings up, who do you put on waivers?
Bonnie's already jumping on Tracy hate. Uh-oh. Shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, wow. You set yourself up for that one.
I'm okay with it.
You really did.
I'm okay with it.
Follow up on Manson from Lockdown Late Night. Can we get rid of him sooner rather than later? Felix's comment on the last pod about how many times he blows coverage and creates a scoring opportunity for the other team is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because listening to the PDO cast with Jack Hahn and his observation that the Ducks are having the D jump up in the play more and be more of that weak side kind of trailer that's jumping up to give the forwards an option. I think for a guy like Manson, that really doesn't suit them because he just doesn't work well when he has to make a play. Like he is a guy where the puck needs to be on his stick for as little time as possible. And when he's in a position where he's being asked to support the offense, you're opening up a situation where he's just gonna do something crazy, and you just have to live with it. Yep. Clearly, the Ducks are okay with that, but it's cost them a couple times already.
Coldfire725 said, other than Zegras and the Calder, do you think any other Duck has a chance at an award this season? This is easy.
I mean, is it Troy Terry?
No.
Okay.
Dallas Eakins with the Jack Adams. If the Ducks make the playoffs,
he's getting nominated.
Yeah.
Like without question.
Yeah.
I mean, here I'll say this. I think that Troy Terry should be in the Selke conversation. Yeah, easily. Like he should absolutely get Selke votes.
Evolving Hockey actually had Troy Terry on their ballot preseason for the Selke.
I think it's completely fair and it's consistent with even just the narrative perspective of the Selke. Like he's getting the offensive points, right, which is something that you need to win a defensive award, which is weird. But yeah, I absolutely the one thing that works against him is he's not a center. So maybe
does Getzlaf for the Masterton have legs?
Sure.
I'm trying to think about
who probably needs more than a goal.
Carey Price probably has a lot.
Well, he needs to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we don't know if we will yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe Jonathan Drouin also.
I mean, if Gibson plays well at all down the stretch, he's gonna get Vezina votes for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's getting first place votes. I don't think that's happening, but I think people are gonna talk about him.
Yeah. How many game wins until the Ducks are locked into a playoff spot? What points percentage do you think they need to be at, or at what point would you be comfortable saying they're locked into a playoff spot?
Well, they're at 77% now with how many points in 30 games? Making me do research.
This shows that neither of us really look at the standings that much.
Yeah, we do not look at standings. They have 37 points. Yeah, so they're 10. I mean, you're 12 games away or 11 games away from the halfway point.
I think if by the 60 game mark they're in the 70 range, I'd be comfortable saying they're in.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in.
Yeah,
I think they're in.
Yep, agreed.
I said this like a month ago though.
Yeah.
So I can't really go back on that now.
Yeah. Austin Price asks, have the Ducks given up on the idea of Raquel as a center? Yes, they should. Yeah. They honestly should try him there. Why not?
I mean, I give him decent chances of being better than Isac Lundestrom.
Wow. I've tried to really qualify everything to say we don't hate these players so that Bonnie doesn't come at us, and you just tee it up there.
You know what I've realized, Jake? No matter how hard I try to be level and capture every side, there's always going to be people that push back, that go for the gotchas or the actuallys. So you know what? I just don't care anymore. I've given up.
You're just giving in?
No, I'm not giving in. I'm just realizing that I don't need to couch what I say.
Fair.
I mean, when I couch stuff, I'm just saying it because I think it's fair. Because I think it's fair to know all these things. But you said it yesterday. I seemed punchy, and
you were.
I like how I don't even know what I said that made you say that, but no, I'm just saying what I think.
All right. Coldfire725 says, if the Ducks make the playoffs, does that guarantee an Eakins extension?
How does Dallas Eakins not come back next year? I really want someone to explain this to me right now.
New general manager who wants his own coach.
Yeah, but you have a coach who just brought this roster to a playoff berth.
New general manager wants his own coach.
let me repeat myself. You have a coach who just brought this roster, which is likely to be an inferior version of the one next year, to the playoffs. Like, what? Like, doesn't it make sense if you're that new GM, you want your own person, but don't you want you also want someone that can bring the best out of your group, and you just saw a guy do that.
New general manager wants his own coach that meets his,
that's all
his
you've
ideology.
Got. That's all you've presented. And I'm going to go with, you know what? What is it? What's today? 12:13, 9:39 p.m. Dallas Eakins will be the coach of this team next season. Write that in stone. I'm just throwing that out there.
New GM wants his own coach.
Hey, if I'm wrong,
this isn't difficult, honestly. Is that, like, sure, there's possibility, but I don't think it's guarantees that Eakins is the head coach next year, because a GM wants to bring in the guy that he has the same methodology as. And if him and Eakins don't see eye to eye because they're going to be working closely for the next however many years, then that doesn't set himself up well for success. And at the end of the day, I mean, Dallas Eakins also has a decision to make if he wants to come back.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'd want to come back.
I'm just saying it's not a guarantee.
Okay, fine.
Did I talk you out of your opinion?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just... We need to move on from this so we can get out of here.
Lockdown Late Night said likelihood that Getzlaf does one more season. I'm going to say 2.
He is guaranteed to play next year.
I think 2 more years for Getzlaf.
I don't have any inside info. He's playing too well to hang him up.
All right, let's end with this because this is a fun one from our good buddy Sean, the Hardcore Luchador said, question, if that's the case, Felix, about the way you feel, can we get a list of all the Ducks that you hate?
It's not. It was a joke. It was a joke. I don't hate anyone.
Can we get a list of all the Ducks that you hate?
I don't hate any Ducks. There you go.
Wow.
That's the answer. I mean, what do you want me to say to that?
Nothing.
Yes, here are the guys who I hate. No, I'm not going to say that.
I was just trying to screw with you.
I also legitimately don't. I mean, why would I hate them? Like, what? No.
Sorry. I just had to screw with you a little bit. I think that's going to do it, though.
That's basically our show, is you doing that. So,
I mean,
it's all good.
It's been fun. People enjoy it.
The highlight of the last week for me didn't have anything to do with hockey. It had to do with me going into the wrestling, what's the word I'm looking for, channel in our Discord server, and just copy and pasting tweets. I just typed in AEW like as the hashtag on Twitter in the search function, and just started copying and pasting tweets. And for a second, I had you guys. You guys thought that I was actually watching.
You didn't have me.
I had you,
for
sure.
No.
You were like, whoa.
No, because you've done that to me before in text messages. I knew. You had Lewis and Mike for a second, though.
Okay, I will say this. I don't hate any player.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you don't hate wrestling.
But I hate narratives around players. Like, for example, the Lundestrum is awesome narrative. It annoys me because it's not based in much evidence outside of, very, very fluky stats. It's stuff like that annoys me. So, but it's not the specific players themselves.
Mike saying that you didn't have him either. You probably had Lewis.
I had you all. You just don't want to admit it.
I mean, you probably had Lewis. Let's be honest. Lewis, love you, but you probably took the bait.
I mean, if his food takes are any indication. Also, want to put this out there because I think it's important. It's important that we put down this rebellion, that we nip it in the bud.
What now?
Wet burritos are they suck. Wet burritos are not good.
You're about to get so much hate for this.
No, it's fine. Like, if you go to a restaurant, a nice sit-down restaurant, Mexican restaurant, first off, if you order a burrito, I question that a bit because it's just not the move at a nice restaurant. And secondly, if you get a wet burrito to top it all off, you've committed a sin. There's no coming back from that. You can't ask for forgiveness for that one. It's just not the move. It's gross. It needs to be put down. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that it got to this point.
You're getting hate in the Twitch chat, by the way.
It's my favorite thing about it's my favorite thing about our food takes. I was listening to another podcast where they were having like a food discussion. It was around Thanksgiving, and they were actually having like this nuanced conversation about like ingredients and I was like, wow, like is this how we're supposed to do it? Because ours are just straight up like They're just straight up like conclusion.
What?
Like no evidence whatsoever. Just
you are getting so much hate in the Twitch chat. By the way, wet burritos are delicious. Here's my take on it: green sauce better than red sauce. That's the go-to there.
We can agree on that.
And here's the thing: ordering a burrito at a Mexican food place is a completely standard thing to do, but you eat it with a fork and knife.
Standard.
Then
it's not standard. Nothing about that is standard.
Yeah, but
you go fajitas, or you go carne plate.
Wet burrito with a fork and knife, delicious. All of it blending some cheese and sour cream on top of it all. Oh, so good.
I just think it gets all soggy and
that's the point.
Disgusting.
That's the point.
Ooh, El Farolito is a great call, though.
That's the point. Is that it seeps into the tortilla.
By the way, I don't hate Mexican food. I actually love Mexican food, but I just think, every cuisine has its blind spot. Every cuisine has the black eye that it has to wear.
So you're saying a burrito is a staple of Mexican food? No,
wet burrito specifically.
Also a staple of Mexican food.
Look, if people want to come at me for this, I respect it. It's like you can definitely try to make the case for the wet burrito, but I will not agree.
A really good burrito should be eaten with a fork and knife. That's my take here.
No.
Yeah, a really good burrito is the size of something that you don't pick up and eat with your hands.
Okay, let's unpack that for a second. You're saying that if it's really good, that means it's going to be bigger, which means you can't eat it with your hands.
Correct.
When we don't have enough time for this. We're an hour 41 in. I have so many thoughts, but I think we got to get out of here.
Twitch has decided, by the way, that you've lost this one. I've won.
What have I lost?
I've won this battle.
Look, I respect the fact that you like wet burritos, but I think you're wrong about that. Like, who wants to cut up a burrito? Who wants to do that? Fundamentally,
it's fantastic.
It's not. Burritos are meant to be eaten with your bare hands.
Wow.
There's just something
This may
satisfying.
be the biggest argument we've had on the podcast.
No, there's for sure
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is bigger.
I feel like our earlier pods in the early days had more just debates on
it's because we covered every game.
Yeah,
we did more hours.
We disagreed on minor points a lot more.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I'm glad I got that off my chest. I feel so much better already. Now the narrative is that I hate Swedes and Mexican food. Yeah. It's funny because both of those things are just so wrong. But I'm okay with it.
All right. I think it's time to get out of here unless you have any other bad food take that you want to out.
I feel like I had something else. Oh my. Now I have to out you. Now I have to bury you. Now I have to just leave you in the dust. So this is something that Jake said in our Discord chat yesterday. By the way, the food channel is worth the price of admission alone. Jake prefers the artificial table syrup.
We've definitely discussed this on the podcast before.
But we have maybe we have some new listeners who haven't heard this before. I know that you probably don't want this to see the light of day again.
Oh, I don't care.
But you prefer the Aunt Jemimas, the log cabins, which is just pretty much chemical waste.
I get the organic log cabin.
We don't know what that is. Yeah, you can, but you prefer that to real maple syrup, which is that's just such a bad opinion. I don't even. My brain is breaking trying to explain why you're wrong.
I grew up with it, and so I like the taste more.
That's like saying you prefer McDonald's to, I don't know, a high-end burger or something.
Here's the ingredients in the log cabin all natural table syrup.
Oh, he's pulling up the ingredients.
Brown rice syrup, water, cane sugar, brown sugar, natural flavors, citric acid.
Yeah,
that's it.
Not pictured. Maple syrup.
Yeah.
Brown rice syrup? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I like the taste of that more than I like maple syrup.
That is a concoction. That is that is a literal concoction.
Coldfire saying I hate Canadians. Confirmed.
I may or may not have brought this up just to bring some of the public back to.
I think you're trying to. You realize that the public completely.
They've already tuned me out because of the wet burrito.
You tried to out me and you got outed yourself, and so now you're trying to bring up another take. Hey, I agree. I get it. I get that it's not the popular take. I get that maple syrup by a lot of people is considered better. That's completely fine. It's just what I grew up with, so it's what I like.
Oh man,
You like how my defense of something that is unpopular is just saying, "Hey, it's my taste. I like it more," and I don't try to bring down everyone. Whereas you, with your unpopular opinion, just tries to just throw all the shade at me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it would be boring if we would just we're repeating ourselves. Okay, dang, people are agreeing with you on this too.
Boom.
I am
Oh
stacking
wait,
L's.
Nate's agreeing with me. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, you might want to.
Just
You
kidding.
might want to
Just kidding.
press pause in the parade. Okay. Well, if you have enjoyed our show today, we're going to start wrapping up here. If you enjoyed our show today, there are a few ways that you can support us, which are going to help us keep this thing going. This is a labor of love, but anything that you can do to help will go a long way. The number one way is our Patreon page, patreon.com/crashthepond. I think we've brought it up at least 17 times in the show today, but it is so worth it. For $1 a month, you get access to our Crash the Pond Discord server, where you get to hang out with fellow hardcore Ducks fans, a great, thriving community with just some of the best people you'll meet, people that are there to have a good time, to have a positive conversation about whether it's hockey. We have the food channel. We have a gaming channel. If you're looking for people to game with, you have a general chat. We have it all on there, and I think that it's really become my favorite place to hang out on the internet. I mean, if I'm being honest, like when you look at Twitter, sure, Twitter has its pros, but it also has its definite cons. And our Discord is not that. It is everything you would want from a community. And I'm really proud, honestly, of where that's gotten. And I'm proud of the fact that Jake and I didn't really have anything to do with it. Like, sure, we brought the people in, but the people that are in it are what make it, and that has just really been awesome. So
yeah, it's an amazing community in there, and it's very welcoming. It's very fun,
very welcoming. Like the day you sign up, you're gonna get a welcome message from everybody, and you will be welcome with open arms.
Just beware of Lou's takes in general.
Yeah, there are some pretty bad food takes in there, but like that's the one channel where
also beware of the turtle.
Yeah, that I don't really understand that one yet. It's fine.
There's a turtle committee.
My goal is to never actually understand that. Like I don't want to ever understand it.
It's really not that hard. It's because Lewis would post something in a Twitter or a tweet in there that was already posted like 3 times before. Yeah. So it's a turtle because turtle it's slow. Emoji.
Yeah, whatever. The whole committee thing. I'm staying out of that. $5 a month though, you get access to that chat, that server, but you also get access to 2 bonus podcasts. So that's where Jake and I will dive into league-wide topics. We did our top 10 NHL players in a keeper fantasy draft over the weekend. So essentially, who are the 10 guys that we would pick first if we're building a franchise right now? Spoiler alert, Trevor Zegras may or may not have been one of them. So we do 2 of those a month. And we also do a little bit more of the unfiltered. Today's show is pretty unfiltered, but we do. If you enjoy kind of the banter on the show, you get that. You definitely get that in droves at the $5 tier. Now, for $15 a month, you get access to everything I just said, but you also get to join us for 2 watch-alongs a month. So that is where we do a live stream of 2 Ducks games where we will give you our live feedback, our live analysis. We'll kind of shoot the breeze. We'll have a private YouTube stream, so that way you can keep track of the game, see where we're at time-wise, and also chat with us as the game is happening. So all of that is at patreon.com/crashthepond, and that is the one where I think, honestly, if you are a Ducks fan in 2021, signing up for our Patreon, even if it's just the $1 tier, will greatly enhance your experience as a fan. I actually really think that. But if you don't want to pledge any money a month, that's totally understandable, totally fine. There's still a couple of ways that you can support us. The number one is probably going to be at Apple Podcasts. So just search for Crash the Pond, leave a rating and a review. And if you leave the review, we'll read it on the show. And I think we have a new one, although I'm not seeing it on mine. Jake, it was a YouTube comment that you sent me today.
Yeah, there was a YouTube comment that I think was really nice. And so here, let me bring it up. Do you have it? I texted it to you.
Well, let me bring this up while we get to that. So just, if you go to Apple Podcasts and search for us, leaving a review is a great way to help the show, and it's completely free to you. It probably just takes a couple minutes. And then you can also find us on Spotify. Same deal there. Search for us, subscribe, helps the show a ton. Or you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/Crash the Pond. You can see the video version of the show. You can see our Twitch stream, the feed there, and you can see the charts that Jake posts throughout the show. You can see his cat climb up onto his back at different points or pass through the screen during the stream. And now I found the comment that was left today. So we do look at the comments on YouTube because we get some good ones.
And this is one that I think is worth reading. You want to go for it?
Sure. This is from RJ saying, I've been subscribed to you guys a little over a year now and have been just absolutely thankful for your content. I'm currently in the UK right now on vacation by myself and have been forced to stay here because I tested positive for COVID. Times are really tough right now for me, but watching these videos definitely makes me feel better and lets the isolation time go by faster so I can soon be home with my family. Thank you guys for making me happy. Man, RJ, that one was tugging at the heartstrings. First and foremost, I wish you the absolute best in terms of your health. I hope that you are getting through that without any issue. And I am wishing you an awesome, speedy recovery and that you will be back home with your family as soon as humanly possible. And the fact that we have helped you in any way, shape, or form during your time here isolating means a lot. So yeah, leave us a YouTube comment and we might read it on the show.
Yep.
Now, that's at youtube.com/Crash the Pond. You can also find our website, crashthepond.com. Now, it is that time of year. Maybe you have a Ducks fan in your life. You want to buy them a cool gift, something to help them rep their team even further. Hey, the Ducks are in the playoffs this year. They're playing well. They have an exciting roster. Why not get them a Crash the Pond hoodie or t-shirt to go with that? It feels like the perfect time to jump on board the bandwagon. We have a nice little assortment on our website. You can get a hoodie with our beautiful logo, a beautiful crest that has the Honda Center arches and the palm trees. You can get the orange and black version in terms of the logo, or you can get the eggplant and jade. We have every flavor fan covered if you're more of an old school type or you like the newer logo. So that's at crashthepond.com/shop. You can also find Crash the Pond on Twitter and on Facebook. Just search Crash the Pond. Jake is on Twitter at Reindeer Games 91. Make sure to give him a follow. And I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. So unless Jake has anything else here. No, he's shaking his head. Okay. Well, then we're out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week, and we will talk to you a week from now.
Bye.